Hello, my dear friends, and welcome to a new episode of our channel. Today we will take you on the most dangerous adventure I have ever experienced in my life. And it is unlike any adventure you have ever seen before. We are heading to the forgotten place, an abandoned factory for over 30 years. But don't get it wrong, this is not just an ordinary abandoned factory left to decay over time. This place is filled with secrets that have not been uncovered until now, a site of a terrible curse that surrounds it from every side. What you will see in this video may change your perception of abandoned places forever. This factory was once a massive center for chemical production. Imagine hundreds of workers who used to flock here every day, their energy filling the space and everything running smoothly. But everything changed in one night. The night of the catastrophe. People in the city still tell stories about it. That night, strange lights illuminated the sky, and horrifying screams were heard coming from the factory that no one could explain. The next day, none of the workers returned. The factory was suddenly shut down, and no trace of the workers has been seen since. No one knows what happened inside. Since that day, the factory has become just a memory in people's minds, but it is much more than that. As the years went by, rumors began to spread. Strange sounds, lights appearing and disappearing at night. Some people claimed they could hear whispers coming from inside the walls, but no one dared to get closer. One of my friends, who has passed by the factory several times, told me that every time he did, he felt like something was watching him. Those stories piqued my curiosity, but what really drove me to investigate was a mysterious message I received. That message came from an unknown person who did not identify themselves. It contained a detailed map of the factory and ominous warnings. The message simply said, "Do not enter after midnight. Why? No one knows." But I was ready to face anything. Curiosity is what always drives me to embark on these experiences, and this time was no exception. I gathered my equipment, camera, flashlights, everything I needed to document this adventure. I decided to go to the factory myself at night, and indeed, I arrived around 9 o'clock in the evening. The place was engulfed in total darkness, and the wind howled through the surrounding trees. The atmosphere was eerie, as if the place was waiting for me. The main gate was locked, but I found a side gate that was open, as if it were inviting me in. I entered the factory through this gate, and the first thing I noticed was the complete silence. No sound of life, no movement, just a haunting emptiness. The corridors were covered in dust, and the floors were dilapidated. But that was not what scared me. It was that strange feeling I had from the very first moment. I felt as though I was not alone in this place. I sensed that something was watching me, but I could not see anything. I began to wander through the factory, trying to understand what had happened here. As I walked through the corridors, I noticed strange symbols engraved on the walls. I couldn't decipher their meanings, but they resembled ancient talismans or rituals. Some say a secret cult used this factory after it was closed to perform mysterious rites. I don't know if that's true, but I was sure these symbols were not made by the workers who used to be here. Then I found a small door leading to the basement. The place seemed untouched by anyone for decades. The atmosphere down there was different, unnaturally cold, and the smell was strange, reminiscent of mold, but sharper. I felt like I was stepping into something dangerous. The corridor was narrow and completely dark. Every step I took intensified my feeling of fear. I had the sense that I was getting closer to a dangerous secret that I was not supposed to uncover. I reached the secret room in the basement. Here the surprise awaited me. The place was filled with old files and corroded scientific equipment. I felt like I had entered an abandoned laboratory. I began to sift through these scattered papers and found documents discussing secret experiments. The factory was not merely a chemical production site. It was a secret government laboratory. The experiments they conducted here aimed to enhance the mental and physical abilities of humans. They were trying to create stronger, smarter, and faster beings. But the experiments failed and turned into a catastrophe. One of the final experiments, according to the documents I found, produced a distorted creature that initially appeared human, but became something else after the experiments, a creature that could not be controlled, feeding off fear. In that moment, I began to understand why the factory was shut down so suddenly, and why everyone who worked there disappeared. Those experiments were the true cause of the catastrophe that took place. While I was reviewing these documents, I began to hear heavy footsteps approaching. I turned quickly, but there was no one there. The sound grew closer, and I felt I was being watched. I tried to remain calm, but my heart was racing. The place was unbearably eerie. The closer the sound got, the more I felt that something was nearing. Then I saw it in the darkness. There was a creature, distorted, with no natural shape. Its limbs were twisted, and its face looked like the result of a failed experiment. I cannot describe the horror I felt in that moment. The camera recorded blurry footage, but I was clutching it tightly. I knew I had to get out of there as fast as I could. I tried to escape, but every corridor I entered seemed to shift. The walls appeared to move, as if the factory itself was trying to stop me. I felt like I was in an endless maze, but I kept running, not knowing where I was going, but determined to escape. Finally, I found the exit. I ran with all my strength towards the gate I had entered through. And when I finally burst outside, I felt a temporary sense of relief. But at that moment, I sensed something strange, as if the factory was still watching me, as if I hadn't truly left it. This was my experience at the Forgotten Place. It is not just an abandoned factory, it is a living entity that feeds off fear and negative energy. If you are thinking about visiting places like this, remember there are places in this world that hold secrets that humans should not approach. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more mysterious adventures. And now, I would like to know from you, do you think what happened to me was real? Or is there another explanation? Share your thoughts.